episode of Wellness and Living, we talked about back pain, how excruciating it can be sometimes, and how it is common in both the male and the female gender. The best advice anyone can give you is that when the pain persists, you ought to see a medical professional so that you can get the best medical advice followed by adequate and consistent treatment up until you get a positive result. Everyone has a peculiar body shape, and it must fall in three categories. Either you are a mesomorph, or you are an ectomorph, or you are an endomorph. And it's because of our body shapes that sometimes our diet plans are influenced. We all want to live healthy, and there are different ways to achieve that. Over time, we can be creative, ingenious, and resourceful about how we keep our health and maintain our well-being. Have you heard about intermittent fasting? That's our focus today on Wellness and Living. Welcome. I'm Thelma Obasi.
Fasting is a good way to shed weight, because virtually when you see people going on fasting, you discover that they look more slimmer, and they also look more smart.
It's not about not eating, but how you eat and what you eat. I read something like that then, like it's not necessarily you stay off food, but what the type of food you eat and when you do take the food, that determines the addition and the losing of weight.
Fasting is one of the ways you can shed weight. It's good they go into fasting, but everything should be in moderation. It's not like you continue to fast and then you develop ulcer.
Depending on the fasting you take, because if you take too much fasting, it will affect your health. So if you are fasting for shedding weight, it's not a good idea. But if you are fasting to serve God, you'll be accepted.
Like I'm working on my weight by staying off food and like late night food, staying off that, and having enough rest also, because I read that also, like if you want to lose weight, you need enough rest, and and that's how I'll be working on mine.
And we go at any length to shed weight.
I do have a lot of exercises for weight, to keep fit and to lose weight, and I watch my diet, what I eat, when to eat it, and what not to eat. I take some time to sleep. I see sleeping as also very important for people who want to check their weight.
People that are trying to shed weight using intermittent fasting is a wrong way to go about you losing weight. Your losing weight has to do with you reducing what you eat, and you do an exercise, a lot of exercise.
For people who want to lose weight, first of all, you have to accept your physique, your body structure. First, that is the first thing, that this is what you have now. Accepting yourself now will give you the right mindset for further going into your weight loss program. So secondly, you should do is you exercise, keep fit. Exercise, you cannot overemphasize about exercises. You have to have a program and keep to it.
But some people, when they say they are fasting, by the time they want to eat, maybe later in the day, they will eat all manners of food just because they have denied themselves for some times. I don't think even people go on keto and things like that just for them to reduce their weight. So it's a matter of discipline, how they can discipline their appetite, discipline themselves, and see how to work towards the goal they have set ahead of them.
It's great to know what you're thinking and to know what your plans are with regard to your wellness and your well-being. Just like today, when we're talking about intermittent fasting. There are many ways to fast intermittently. Just like the word goes, you go without meals or any other means of sustenance for long periods at a time. Some can do it for 4 hours, some for 8, some for 12, some for 16. And then some group of people will have breakfast and wait for another 24 hours to have their next meal at breakfast time again. We hear that medical professionals say this can improve your life's quality and provide for you and those who partake of this lifestyle with you longevity. That is why we're talking with Dr. Iheme.
Intermittent fasting, which is actually also called intermittent energy restriction, it's actually a practice that's actually becoming the fad, so, especially in the United States of America. It's healthy, especially in the interim, in the short term. Now, why we said so is this was actually a study that was performed, a review that was done in 2019. By the American Heart Association. They were able to show that when one involves himself in intermittent fasting, it has been shown that the risk factors for cardiovascular diseases were reduced by as much as 9.9%. In fact, they study, a range was put between 4 to about 9.9%. It has a way of improving obesity. In fact, all what we call metabolic disease, the metabolic disorders that are actually meal related, all right? Whether you're talking about diabetes, you're talking about hypertension, cardiovascular disease generally. So it has been shown that intermittent fasting, especially in the interim, has been able to show some promising results. Intermittent fasting makes you, you stay off food for a particular number of hours, depending on the type we're talking about, and then they ask you to stay away either for a particular number of hours or days, as the case may be, and then you go back to the whole thing, all right? Go back to eating everything that's during the non-fasting phase. Imagine when we add it up to exercise, which of course we all know has very beneficial effects, all right? Beneficial effects over time on every system, not just the cardiovascular system. Now, if we should join exercise with intermittent fasting, we expect to have a geometrical advantage, compared to people who may do only exercise alone or who may be doing intermittent fasting alone. So we actually recommend, if you must do intermittent fasting, you should also join it, of course, with exercise. Now, when we're talking about rest, all right, good. Rest is basically, the time for anabolism to come in, a time for restoration, a time for repair to come in, a time for all those, all those things that have been put, haywire while the process of exercise and fasting were all being done. It's also during the phase of resting that the body now attempts as much as possible to repair. So if you can actually put the three together, intermittent fasting with exercise and adequate rest, as the case may be, I'm sure that you are going to turn out to become a super duper individual. People with hypertension will benefit a lot. A caveat was actually put for people with diabetes. So diabetics may not necessarily benefit much from intermittent fasting. So we will actually encourage them to do the regular one, the calorie fasting, the calorie restriction, as the case may be, and as advised by their physicians. Of course, the ulcer patients, as the case may be, will not benefit, because it depends on the type. By the way, it also depends on the type of intermittent fasting we are talking about. There are 3 types have been established. You have the one they call the alternate daily fasting, whereby it simply means a particular day you are not eating, the next day you are eating. But now, to take charge of those other people, like the ulcer patients, it has been advocated that if you must involve yourself in intermittent fasting, the alternate daily type, we actually encourage you to do 25% of your caloric intake must be used on that first day, while 25% of your usual for the day should be used for that first day, while on the second day, which is now the day of eating, you can go the whole hog and do your thing. That's actually the alternate daily. Now you also have the other ones. You also have the periodic. Where you talk about like in a time, let's say in a week, for instance, you can decide to do 5 days out of 5 days of fasting and then 2 days of eating. All right, so these are actually very popular abroad. So a lot of people have it. So that's what they call 5-2. All right, and then you also have the one for the day, the one they also do for the day, where you have 16-8. All right, the daily intermittent fasting on. You also have, we call it 16-8, whereby 16 represents the time of fasting, 16 hours of the day represent the time of fasting, and 8 days represent the time of eating. So by and large, I think before the ulcer patients will want to involve himself in whatever type of intermittent fasting or so, he should seek the opinion of his healthcare practitioner, depend on the state of the ulcer, and then be able to get appropriate advice on whether how appropriate or not it is for you. But bear in mind that we are looking at basically people who need it, people who are at risk of cardiovascular disease. So in other words, if you are not obese, you have no business with it. In the long term, one cannot really tell you conclusively or decisively what those benefits may be. So that's why every benefit that we're talking about in intermittent fasting is about in the short term. The beneficial effects are just in the now, but in future, no observable effect has been, a positive effect has been ascribed to it. So that's actually why we rather, since studies are still going on, especially as far as the future benefits are concerned. So we would rather want to stick with what we know. So that's actually why nobody will want to stick out his neck and tell you to continue with it in the long run.
It definitely concerns us on wellness and living. Just like today when we're discussing intermittent fasting. Have you ever heard about it? Is it something you think you can do? We hear from research conducted that it involves a high level of strength, stamina, and endurance. We also hear that the benefits are enormous. For example, when you do eventually break your fast, whether you're doing 8 hours or 16 or 24, you should ensure you eat healthy and that all the food properties are well taken care of. In other words, it must be a balanced diet. Have you heard about intermittent fasting? I'm sure you have, because it's something that everyone is talking about, especially if you want to shed weight. Or for many people, even when they want to continue to maintain their current physical statistics. It's a health trend and is claimed to cause weight loss, improve metabolic health, and perhaps even extend one's lifespan. Some of the methods may actually birth great results, but it is key to deliberately study and latch onto one that works best for you. Here are 6 popular methods of intermittent fasting. First, the 16-8 method. This is fasting every day for 14 to 16 hours and restricting your eating windows to 8 to 10 hours. Within the eating window, Many people can fit in 2 or 3 meals. This method is also known as the lean gains protocol, popularized by fitness expert Martin Becker. Fasting can actually be as simple as not eating anything after dinner and skipping breakfast. For example, if you finish your last meal at 8 p.m. and do not eat until noon the next day, that is about 16 hours. It is generally recommended that women fast for 14 to 15 hours maximum because experts say they seem to do better with slightly shorter fast. When fasting, you can drink water, coffee or tea, and other zero-calorie beverages during the fast, as this can help reduce feelings of hunger. Eat healthy during the eating window, doctors also advise. Another intermittent fasting plan is the 5-2 diet. This is eating normally 5 days of the week while restricting your calorie intake to 500 to 600 for the other 2 days of the week. This diet is also called the fast diet and was popularized by British journalist Michael Mosley. On fasting days, it's recommended that women eat 500 calories and men about 600 calories. Critics say that there are no studies testing the 5-2 diet itself. Now, let's talk about the next one. It's called Eat, Stop, Eat. This involves a 24-hour fast, once or twice per week. This method was popularized by fitness expert Brad Pilon. By fasting from dinner on one day up to dinner of the next day, this amounts to a 24-hour fast. You can also fast from breakfast the first day to breakfast time the second day and do the same for lunch. The choice is yours. Some critics say that the potential downside is that a 24-hour fasting can be fairly difficult for many people. Let's talk about the alternate day fasting. In this method, you fast every other day, and there are different versions of this method. Some allow up to 500 caloric intake daily. A full fast every other day can seem extreme, so it is not recommended for beginners. With this method, you may go to bed hungry several times every week, which may not be a pleasant or sustainable method in the long run. Now, this method is for warriors, and it was popularized by Ori Hofmeckler. This involves eating small portions of raw fruits and vegetables during the day and one huge meal at night. One will wonder, why nighttime? Why not reverse it and eat a heavy meal during the day and then eat your raw fruits and vegetables and spill it up till nighttime? Basically, according to Ori, you fast all day and feast all night. This diet was one of the first popular diets to include a form of intermittent fasting. The diet choices are quite similar to that of the paleo diet, mostly whole and unprocessed foods. Finally, we have the spontaneous meal skipping. Here, you may not need to follow a structured fasting plan to reap some benefits. Another option is to simply skip meals from time to time, such as when you do not feel hungry or are too busy to cook a meal. Our bodies are well equipped to handle long periods of famine, but that's not saying you should take it to the extreme or you should abuse your body. Because when you do so, the consequences are dire. You could develop ulcer, amongst many other ailments. So surprisingly, only disciplined people can latch onto the intermittent fasting period. In essence, if you are not really hungry today, skip breakfast. Wow. But how many people really can imbibe this habit? Well, that's for you to find out. And perhaps you can let us know through our social media handle. Intermittent fasting. If it concerns your health, it concerns us on wellness and living, and then it should concern you. You should learn something from it. The message should be focus on your health, on your well-being, on your longevity, so that you can be productive and be fulfilled. There's no gainsaying that health indeed is the best way to achieve wealth. So if you are intent on pursuing wealth, intent on pursuing success, which everyone for sure is intent on doing, you need to stay well. You need to keep adding wellness points to your wellness kitty. And there's no better time, as if you haven't already started, than to start today. Start right now. You can start with intermittent fasting. Live in a creative and ingenious exercise regimen that will work for you. Go at your own pace. Start slowly. Start with 4 hours. Take it to 8 hours. You can do 16 when you're sure you build your stamina, your endurance, and your productivity. My name is Thelma. Don't hesitate to continue the conversation on our social media handle, Wellness and Living at Nigerian Television Authority. We'd love to see you again. For now, it's bye-bye. Enjoy a glass of water, clean water, every now and again. Bye-bye.
You can follow us on all our social media platforms: Facebook at NTA Network News, Instagram at NTA Network, Twitter at NTA News Now, YouTube at NTA News Online. Or visit www.nta.ng. For live streaming, visit www.nta.ng/live. Now, you can stay updated on the go, be it on your TV, iPhone, laptop, or iPad, or download the NTA mobile application from your Play Store or App Store. NTA, you can beat the rich.
The community known as Arondi Zogo is located in Idato North local government area of Imo State, Nigeria. The people historically are descendants of the great Arochukwu kingdom, one of the acclaimed centers of Igbo civilization. The story had it that Mazi Izogu, who founded the community, hailed from Amanku in Arochukwu, reputed to be a very successful merchant and warrior. Mazi Izogu was said to have traveled from Arochukwu in company of his warriors on trade expeditions. He had fought wars along the routes at different times and conquered several small communities before he finally established a settlement which became known as Arondi Zogu.
People of Arondi Zogu are basically migrants from Arochukwu and migrants from Anambra State. Arondi Zogu constitute basically of about 85% of people from Anambra State and 15% of settlers from Arochukwu.
The name Arondi Zogu was derived from a combination of three words: Aro, Ndi and Izogu, which literally means Izogu and his people from Aro. This was because Mazi Izogu would always ensure that he firmly secured his conquered territories by appointing his warriors from Arochukwu to be in charge. With the passage of time, Mazi Izogu appointed one of his trusted servants and warrior, Mazi Iheme, as regent of the new settlement. Mazi Iheme settled in Arondi Izogu with his household and only returned to Arochukwu periodically to pay homage to his master, Mazi Izogu. His Royal Highness Eze Ndubisi Kano and Mazi Nath Obaji, a renowned scholar and historian, explain further on the origin of the community.
Izogu, if you want to know Izogu, is a name of a person. But when you include Aro there, it means a people. When you get to Arochukwu, we have 19 villages in Arochukwu. Of these 19 villages, all those in diaspora has a village in Arochukwu. Just like Arondi Izogu, we are from Amanku in Arochukwu. So, others like the Ajalis, we have Ojari in Arochukwu. That's where they belong. And so on and so forth.
The man Izogu who founded this land, who fought for this land, who owned this land, is an Aru man and was an Aru man. He hailed from Amanku in Arochukwu.
Arondi Izogu is predominantly a farming community. They produce variety of crops such as rice, palm fruit and others. But yam remains the king of all the crops, which explains why it is being celebrated. Arondi Izogu is today more famously known for their rich cultural heritage. One of such is the EKG Festival, which has gained both local and international recognition as a major tourism destination. EKG Festival, which is celebrated between March and April every year, is unique, spectacular and has deep historical origin. Over the years, EKG Festival has become a kind of cultural renaissance for the people of Arondi Izogu, Aros at home and in diaspora, friends and tourists who travel from various parts of the world to witness the great celebration.
Abuja is located in the center of Nigeria and has a land area of 8,000 square kilometers. It is bounded on the north by Kaduna State, on the west by Niger State, on the east